This is a Fox News alert. In just a few minutes from now, perhaps as long as a half hour, maybe shorter, we're going to hear from Attorney General John Ashcroft, also FBI Director Robert Mueller, and Tom Ridge, the head of Home Security, to find out why the terrorist threat level has been elevated. It has now been elevated one notch above where it was to the high-risk category. Among other things, that means it's going to make it a little more difficult to hold public events. Now, of course, there are thousands of public events today and tomorrow. How will these be affected and why the elevation of the risk? Well, we'll find out about it in just a moment. Again, about a half hour from now. We'll cover it live right here. Meanwhile, we're never going to forget the pictures from 9/11, the burning towers, people running covered in debris, and some of the most powerful images came not only from that day, but in the days that followed. Many of them were captured by a Manhattan photographer named Gary Suson. Suson spent 5 months documenting the exhausting recovery effort at Ground Zero, almost complete. And those images are now in a new book entitled Requiem. There's a picture of the book, and here to share some of his incredible images for us is Gary Suson. Suson.
Yes, sir.
You were a photographer for the uniformed firefighters themselves.
Yes.
So you were designated by them to be the photographer of record for the events that happened.
Exactly.
Let's go right to those photographs, because that's what you're here for. The first photograph is one that we can all empathize with, because so many of us just stood in awe of what was happening, either in person, as many of us who lived in New York, or through the television cameras, because nobody knew what was going to happen. We certainly didn't know that the buildings were going to collapse. This is an incredible shot.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the very first images that I took. It was on my roof in the meatpacking district, and the first tower had just collapsed, and the second tower was only moments away from collapsing again.
I have to ask you, because of what New Yorkers and people in the nation's capital, the whole nation went through, do you think we're better able to deal with situations like being elevated for right now from one terrorist threat level to another?
Well, I mean, it is terrorism, and their specialty is being secret and covert. However, I think that as a country, we're much more aware of what's going on. We're aware of our surroundings. We look at bags in the street. We look for suspicious people now. So I don't think you can ever be fully prepared, because they are terrorists.
You come from a group of folks, from firefighters, who spend their life sacrificing themselves for other people. On 9/11, individuals who had no intention of getting into a line of work like that, some people gave their lives doing what firefighters pledged themselves to do. Were you surprised that so many normal people, everyday people, turned out to be heroes?
No, because, I mean, it was, first off, the firemen ran into buildings that people were running out of. And I think when things go down, New Yorkers really knew what to do, and we all came together as a country, and we came through. This one image you're looking at here is the Ground Zero Honor Guard. It's one of the most sacred acts at Ground Zero, and I was honored to be allowed to walk in that. These are the men of Ladder 4, Engine 54, carrying home one of their brothers.
How many of those processions were there?
Oh, God.
Hundreds.
Hundreds. It was an everyday thing.
And yet, throughout the recovery effort, throughout those incredible moments, still the process continued. Tons, thousands, millions of tons were taken away, carted away. So everything happened at the same time. Nobody complained. Did you ever hear anybody complain?
Never. There wasn't a whole lot of talking down in the hole. When the men were working and digging on their hands and knees, everyone was quiet, and they just went about their tasks, and they were absolutely amazing. And the other thing is months and months, 6, 7 months after the terrorist attacks, well, a lot of people had gone on with their lives. These guys were still down there, the firemen, the police, digging on their hands and knees in this little world called Ground Zero.
We've got more pictures. We just want to alert viewers that because of this high alert status that we've been elevated into by the Attorney General's office, by the Homeland Security Department, we want to keep that notion there for you, that there is going to be a press conference just about 25 minutes from now in which details of this are explained. But I want to get back to Gary. We have some pictures. Perhaps we could just throw a couple of pictures. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Gary, if you could hold on for a second.